Shivers down the spine, absolutely shivers down. It gives me shivers down the spine listening to it when I'm in the studio or whatever else. But tonight, here, just for one day, we are all heroes. Jesus. What I would like to say is that that window that I mentioned earlier is in the bar. So whatever, what greater calling do you need for the bar after the event than to look out that window? I am now going to pass over to the professionals and specifically to Mr. Matt Everett. And enjoy the rest of the evening. Enjoy the Facebook Live. Thank God I wasn't live. But over to these guys who will be live and the guests who will sit in these chairs and answer lots of amazing questions. Thank you very much for listening. And if you want to hear more, there's the box set.
Ladies and gentlemen, not Brian Eno, but Nigel Reeve. Please give it up. Okay, guys, I think, have we got a very short setup, or are we just going for it straight away? We're going for it straight away. Oh, my God, this is amazing. Thank you very much. We are in Hansa Studios in Berlin, which is an amazing thing to say. We are marking the imminent release of David Bowie, A New Career in a New Town, 1977 to 1982. The new third box set, an incredible series of David Bowie reissues. Reissues sounds a bit... It doesn't do it justice, because it's not just about the music you know already. It's about the music you know, reframed in a new way, music you haven't heard before, and kind of putting it in a wider context as well. As well as all you esteemed guests, I'd like to say hello to everybody who's watching via Facebook at David Bowie's Facebook page. Hello, everyone. Welcome them. Thank you very much for joining us. We are live to the whole world, so you guys in here behave a little bit, please. Not too much swearing. Also joining me, as well as the world on David Bowie's Facebook, are three very special people creatively connected to the work contained in this beautiful box in amazing ways. So I'd like to introduce them to the stage. Edu Mayer, Chris Duffy, and Carlos Alomar. Gentlemen, please, there should be a microphone next to you. There you go. Don't sit on your mics.
Test.
There we go. Quick. I mean, how to concise careers into a couple of lines. Edu, you worked at Hansa for 28 years as a sound engineer and worked on so much of the music in this incredible set. Chris, your father, Brian, worked with David repeatedly for at many stages of his career. You also look after the Duffy Archive and an incredible photographer yourself. And Carlos, you were David's friend, confidant, musical director, guitarist, and played on these records as well. Go all at one more time, please. Give it up. Okay. Then let's start with you, Carlos, just because I'm interested in. As we're in this room, the box set is about more than just this room, but I think it's a good idea to stay here. What were your first impressions of arriving at Hansa? What did you think when you first got here?
When I first got here, back then?
Back then.
All right. Well, in order for us to understand, we have to remember, first of all, is there any person that's 26 years old here? There you go. All right. So first thing you have to remember is that was my age. I met Bowie very, very young. So I got this phone call, and it was like, Carlos, I'm doing this album in Berlin. And all I heard was, Germany, yeah. It's a far cry from the Bronx, And I was very excited to be able to come here. But we should also understand, I'm a session musician. And as a session musician, we had just finished doing the Station to Stations kind of stuff, and so I had all this electronic stuff in my brain, and I wanted to do something, and so all I wanted to see was, what kind of equipment do they have in Germany? because they have like Mercedes-Benz and they've got all this like bronze and they got all this, and I want to know what they have as far as their offerings for the studio. I mean, I was being selfish, but what the hell? And when I got here, it was pretty much 4 walls and the equipment. But there was that wall. And I'd heard about it, and I'm like going, yeah, but this is still a studio, and where's the damn wall? So we were there for a while, and suddenly I was like, man, it's really claustrophobic in here. Can you open the curtains? And they opened the curtains. And there it was, the wall. And there was a gunner, and there was 2 guys. So there's 2 gunners, right? And they have the tower. And you open up the curtains, and the first thing the guy on the right does is he looks at you. And then you look at him. And now you're just like staring. And after a while, it's getting a little creepy. David comes over to me and goes, what do you think? And I go, wow, you've never seen the Bronx. I think it was lost on David, but Dennis Davis, the drummer, he had a baby. He cried and he laughed so hard because he got it. So my impression was, I'm in Germany, and so I want to see their methodology. I want to see how they do it. I want to see the studio. I want to see the engineer. I want to see how they work. You know, I want to see, because I had come here the first time with Iggy Pop, and so it was a different experience than with David. With Iggy Pop, it was kind of primal scream therapy, and so it's a little different. Because with Bowie, of course, everything is fine, the world is nice, and blah, blah, blah. And so for me to come here was like really important for me, because it was the first time I was really able to go out and really just like record in another studio. Because I've been recording in a lot of studios in America, so I knew that. But this was a great experience for a young 26-year-old. So I really enjoyed myself. Yeah. And then, of course, we went out partying, and it was so decadent. I fell in love.
We'll come on to that, I think, in a minute. Edu, I mean, you started working here in '76.
Yes.
Because this doesn't look like a normal studio. Why is Hansa special for you? What do you think is it that makes this studio so different?
Well, the Studio 2, which was called Studio 2, because there was already one Studio 1 from Hansa at Nestorstraße, and they bought this building in 1973, and it was supplied with new technique in '76 when I started here, and this kind of room was not existing anywhere in this town, and I don't think in Germany as well. And the first technique I found was a bit tragically, because it didn't work so very well, but then we changed it to a Neve console, which was then used as well when David Bowie came here to continue his recording session for the album Low.
In terms of the atmosphere of this place, has it always felt to you kind of special?
The special atmosphere of this place was founded by the efforts of Studio One within the German recording scene. So it was very famous with German artists, and then it was continued with this special room here, where the German Schlager production took place mainly before David Bowie came, and so he invented a new career for Hansa with his appearance and with his working in here, and we found it very, very well.
Yeah. So, Chris, I mean, your father had been working with Bowie before this era that we're talking about. So, but you must have grown up seeing these sleeves, seeing these photos, leading up to him working with them again in the time that's encapsulated by this set. I mean, they're all incredibly powerful images. Every single one of those covers is completely different to the next. It's a totally different approach, isn't it?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So, yeah, it was, and each session was different. And I think, actually, someone said something interesting to me earlier, that they said that after David worked with Duffy, there was not a photographer that David worked with as often. He kind of chopped and changed. So they did build up quite a unique relationship.
Yeah. Why do you think that was? Was it the shared cultural interest? Was it because obviously you've got David Bowie, someone who has a very clear vision of what he wants and what he doesn't.
Well, I think Duffy had as David did, you know, there was a lot of kind of parallels, a lot of similarities, but Duffy always said that, you know, you had to burn your bridges to move on and create a new beginning. And that was manifested by the fact that he, in a fit of madness, in fact, after the Scary Monsters shoot, where he took all his negatives out to the garden, built a bonfire and tried to burn them all. Luckily, it didn't work. I mean, burning film negs is a bit like burning a phone book. It burns at the edges, but the centre's still there. And the other thing is it produces an inordinate amount of black, acrid smoke. And some neighbours complained to the council, and a little guy turned up and looked over the hedge and said, "You can't do that, stop that." So it stopped him burning everything. God. So we're very fortunate that we've managed to keep all of those sessions with David.
Yeah.
Duffy was very friendly with John Lennon, and I know he must have shot at least half a dozen sessions with John, and we've only got one in the archive. So we're really fortunate with the Bowie material.
I kind of admire the intent of destroying everything and moving on, but that just makes my heart skip to hear about that. Yeah. Carlos, there's a lot of very creative people involved in the recordings that you did in this era. Producers and musicians, a lot of strong-willed characters, a lot of creativity. Was that a difficult dynamic to kind of keep focused?
Was it a bitter pill to swallow?
No, I'm saying. I mean, you have musicians at the top of their game. You have a.
Well, everything is difficult if it's difficult, but a challenge is not difficult, and that's what we have to remember. There's a certain amount of self-pride that you have to have in order to acknowledge something that's missing. Look, we are our own worst critic. I can listen to something and I hate it, and or burn the tape or whatever, And so what we find is the personalities have a job, and so what we find is that methodologies have to be imposed in order for us to be able to control. Each of the people involved in that have to have a certain standard and procedure that they use in order to get things done and be answerable to them. But what happens is they must be incorporated in stages. If that happens, we're okay. But if you try to expand your job description by your efforts, then you're going to create areas. And once those areas overlap, you're going to have a problem. I am not the producer. I like what I play, but if he doesn't like it, he's going to tell me to play it over again. You really think I'm going to tell him he doesn't know what he's talking about and I played my best? So, okay, let's assume that we have strong personalities. You can still have a strong personality and still get the job done. But David doesn't work like that. David is not there to have an argument, but he is there to challenge you. So I'll speak for myself. I was working with David. He calls me up and he says, I want you to should I talk about Iggy or should I talk about Low and all that stuff?
Let's talk about Low and that stuff.
Okay,
in this room.
We're doing
the
Low.
other stuff's amazing.
Man, dude, you're so depressed. What the hell? You're calling me up. I know the situation. I know how you feel. I got it. But I'm not depressed. You handle the words, I'll handle the music. Well, there's nothing depressing about all that music. It's like, dun, 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 well, diddly, I could dance, shake my butt, everything is great. But then he's got to put his lyric on there, and that's where everything meets. Whether it's me, I have my methodology that I use, remember, I had the damn trio. I don't mean that as a curse. I mean Dennis Davis, Carlos Alomar, and George Murray. When David heard that trio it was over. He knew that I could deliver anything that he wanted. My problem is this. I'm a musician, a studio musician. I never play what I practice. Musicians out there never play what you practice. I hear something, I calm myself down, I listen, and then I hear myself in it. Whether I can play it or not, that's the challenge. But I hear something. And David knows that once I start hearing certain arrangements and stuff, he's like, okay. Each of us, Tony Visconti, when he was miking, Dennis Davis was sitting there, I was over there, George Murray was over here, we all had all these effects and all that stuff. Man, the miking, you mic the drums, you have mics over there. I mean, this room, acoustically speaking, I mean, I clap and it's like being in the Taj Mahal. It's really outstanding because you can make it smaller, but you can't make it larger. And so to have these natural acoustics happening like this is really, really cool. And so you want to modify the music so that it actually fits the circumstance. So for Tony Visconti to come out here and say, mic that, mic that snare a little bit further away. What's that got to do with Dennis hitting the snare? You see what I mean? So each of us knows our place, and each of us knows each methodology. We do enter into a conversation about my methodology is not the same as Brian Eno's methodology, and Brian Eno's methodology is not the same as David Bowie's methodology. So in that sense, you do have a meeting of the minds, which later clash, but you do meet first. And I think that it's important for us to realize that the odyssey of creating a song is a many-layered thing. I have a challenge because there's nothing. David will go and go, man, I'm thinking about this song. Ting 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 ting. What do you think? Man, awesome. You mean like this? Ting 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 ting. Yeah, just like that. So it's a very difficult situation because there's nothing there. And so Tony Visconti and David are like constantly amazed. Oh my God, they just finished the album in a week. David didn't have any lyrics yet. This is like, you don't think about it. I never met Robert Fripp. What? I never met him. It was an overdub. The three-piece band gets together in here. We work on magic. I have a communication thing with David. We speak it. Boom, 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 boom. The tracks are done. Bye, everybody. Bye, Berlin. And I go back home. And then, like all of you, I wait. And I wait. And we all wait. And finally the record comes out. Break the record, bring the record home, put it on, turn off all the lights. Honey, quiet, quiet, quiet. Here we go. Damn, where's my part? Why the hell is Robert Fripp or whoever, Adrian, whoever, why are they playing my parts? I mean, it's cool. It's cool that they play it. As long as that record comes out, and when it comes out, I'm just as shocked as all of you. Oh my God, I sound great. It's a fantastic thing. And all these different methodologies on an album, you got 10 to 12 songs on an album, you can understand once those tracks are done and you go to the next one, clear your palate, take a deep breath, and start from nothing all over again. Each one of these gentlemen here on this stage understands that methodology. Once you finish, you're done, move on, clear your head, reset, break it down, start all over again. And I quite honestly, I love it. It is a challenge, and it's a challenge that we met rather quite well.
There we go. For you, there must have been so many moments that were memorable, and it's impossible to focus down to one song or one moment or one sound you created, but that's what I'm going to unfortunately ask you to do. Is there, or maybe a couple of moments when you were like, I've really witnessed something special, something I wasn't expecting, something that surprised me, something where it just blew your mind?
I was used as a recording engineer at Hensa to have a score and to have musicians and to play. They were going to play the score when I was doing another a take with David Bowie for the album Low. I'm talking about Weeping Wall. He said to us, I say us because I was first of all the translator and the plug-in mechanic with the system, and I was cooking as well the coffee in the morning. So I had to do something as well with the microphones and the miking, and he asked for a microphone because he wanted to do something on tape. And I said, okay, this is the microphone, and you start. And then he started to count from 1 to about 180 or 200, I don't remember. It was a long time, about 4 or 5 minutes. And that was the basis track, the click track, so to say. And then he continued to go around this studio, which was filled up with old Hammond organs and Fender Rhodes pianos and a Steinway, which is now upstairs. And we had a drum booth over there, where there are these two lights. There was a drum booth, and we had a big curtain going from that first column over there right over here to this place. And he found a marimbaphone, and he started to rehearse on this marimbaphone, and I was surprised that he was so good in playing a marimbaphone.
Really?
Never would believe that. And then he started with his numbers, and he said to us, you drop me in at, for instance, 48 or somewhere where he wanted to do a new setup. So we played the whole counting with this marimbaphone as the basic track for the song Weeping Wall, and that it was later overdubbed by you and by the other guys, and so it was. I think it's a nice song. I like it very much, as well as the contact with mainly Tony Visconti. He was my colleague. And they found out after a while that I was a studied cello player. And so they had the idea to give me a track for Articade for the song, which was very cello-wise in the original as well with the computers. And so I got a score. We sat together and we wrote a score for me. So I filled the basic track with my cello play, and finally I did 8 tracks. So I was a cello quartet at that time, and you can listen to it because the song will not perform my cello play as a soloist, but you can listen to the string, to the bow touching the string, which would never appear in a synthesizer, of course. So that was very happy with that.
Oh, please.
Yeah, because this is really important. When we got here, this thing that he spoke of is like so weird, because we're usually here's what we're used to: 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is the methodology. You know, it's like I'm just going to count, and you, Carlos, play something at numbers 86 through 112. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Just roll the tape. And then Tony, as you duly met, would just put up like one track just to get me to know the key or to hear something. And I was like, what do you want to play? Anything. And I'm like, okay, so I played anything. I didn't know what I was doing. I just played. I played something that I was happy with that had some kind of melodic structure, and I was pretty happy with it. It's like, okay, I did it, and then I went back inside, and then David says, okay, pull up the tracks. It was what, 30? The Neve had like 32. when he went like that, and I heard all that, I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. And it was nothing like I'd ever heard before. This is this methodology and in a way, it is in fact, as he duly mentioned, it is really classical music done by machines. The issue of having a beat, that's all gone. Classical music doesn't have 1, 2, 3, 4. It goes from one phrase, you can stay on one note. If I was a rock and roller, I'd be playing G. It's just one note. But classical music can do that. Rock has to have a chorus and a verse, blah, 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 blah. But he's right. You can easily put an organic cello because it is, in fact, an orchestral movement. So all this ambient music that they're speaking about is really classical music played by synthesizers. So it was a rude awakening for me, but remember, electronically speaking, we're used to don't go into the red. You know, we're used to the microphone should be, that's a bass microphone. You don't put that on vocals. And Eno is like, put it on vocals. And we're like, okay, but it's going to be distorted. And Eno is like, yeah, but it's going to be distorted. So it was like this weird, organic meets electronic. And, it was somewhat of a life-changing event. We were somewhat the same age. And so to be able to have, we know how we work. We know our method. We know what we're called upon to do. And then we get thrown into the deep end of this type of experimentation. It's really amazing, and it alters anyone that would be able and fortunate enough to be able to experience that.
Yeah, I think it altered the life of people listening to it as well.
It's interesting because that kind of parallel, the process that you've described there, taking that to the imagery level, David did the same thing. You look at Lodger, where it was a very sophisticated set. David was lifted on a metal frame. Duffy shot it on very high resolution Kodachrome film. And at the last minute, did an SX70 Polaroid. And David went, that's what we're going to use. Like the scuzziest kind of quality. And the same on Scary Monsters, in many ways. Richard Chara, who was an incredible makeup artist, did this beautiful Poirot makeup on David. Took an hour and a half, and then it was just all pulled off. And then Edward Bell threw his painting over the front of the cover. It was just, and it's the same kind of process you're describing. And David had that ability to apply that, understand the whole package and how to apply that.
Yeah. Because there was, because your father shot Bowie, you shot Bowie as well.
Yeah.
There's that quote from your dad that talking about a photo session is like talking about a boxing match, which is just brilliant. Yeah. Was it kind of like that when you...
Well, I think it's always like that. I think anyone, and, everyone's a photographer now, allegedly. But you're always looking for that moment. It's chemistry. I mean, I've photograph people that I've never met before, and you have to connect on some level, and then you run through a process, and there's kind of like you start to take some pictures of your sitter, and then you meet a magic moment where everything comes together. No rhyme or reason, it just happens. And that is the parallel with boxing, really. That's just the knockout punch. Or not. In fact, it's not always the knockout punch. It could be the body blow in the third round that started the downward spiral, but that was the picture. And it's interesting because, I mean, on our website you can see the contact sheets of Scary Monsters, and you can see how David changes on all the... I mean, I love contact sheets because they kind of give you a feel for the process of how it happens. Yeah. But I think it's always the same, and it's a great analogy, the boxing one.
Oh, sorry.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Man, when I got the Lodger album, I had to look at it with a magnifying glass.
Which album?
was it Lodger, the one that he
Oh, the
called
Logic,
Ben's?
yeah.
And I gotta ask you, I had to look at it through a magnifying glass because there was so much. If you really look at that album cover, there's so much detail. Like the nose is bent, the fingers, it's just like amazing.
Yeah.
Where did that collaboration of finding how to break him up like that come from?
Well, David had started working with a makeup artist called Anthony Clave, and he was very close to Anthony.
Yeah,
do you remember Anthony?
Yeah. Makeup
And, one of the elements that Duffy was able to bring to that session was he was a very accomplished advertising photographer. So, unlike today where you can Photoshop everything, you can layer it, create perspective, in the analog days, what you saw was what you got. So you had to understand lighting, you had to understand lenses, perspective, set building. And the Lodger session is a perfect kind of bringing together of all Duffy's skills, understanding where to get that frame made, how to give him the sense of separation from the background. But you're right. I mean, that's, like I say, he shot on Kodachrome, a really high-resolution image, which only now has been revealed in the new box set.
That's correct.
Yeah. And it's
can see
great.
it in
Actually,
detail.
they've got to be seen now.
Yeah, it's incredible.
But they are, in our book, I might mention, 5 sessions. But there's a lot of great imagery in there, if people haven't seen it, all those behind-the-scene images. And but David chose a grungy Polaroid.
Yeah, because during those years, didn't he also do the clown kind of parody?
Yeah, Scary Monsters.
Yeah. I mean, the imagery stuff is so consistent all the way throughout that when you look at all of those periods, I mean, there's some form of expression that you're listening to the material, and yet you're looking at the images, and they don't sometimes fit exactly right. Yeah. And so you're left with sometimes you get an album and you go, ooh, nice, look at that cover. And then you play the music, like, oh, Lord. And so there's this weird kind of contrast between the covers and the brilliance and the colors of everything. And then inside you discover that it's all this turn off the lights and ooh. So I when I got those records home, I really loved all the artwork and all. And during those years, you looked at the album covers and you read the back of everything. So it was really amazing when I got that stuff home and I finally looked at it. Wow, this is cool.
So David never discussed the imagery side when you were recording. He didn't talk.
No, yeah. I would just knock it out of the park, and then I had another session. Bye, Germany.
I'd like to ask. Berlin is a cool city. It's a fun city. Was there quite a lot of fun with these guys during the sessions? Were they quite social?
Well, they were very busy at that time as well, because they had to do sessions as well and tours as well. But I think when they finished these tours, they were very well experienced with the material they were going to record here, like with Lust for Life, where David played the honky-tonk piano, and the whole setup was flown in from Los Angeles, as far as I know. And so we had a lot of fun with recording Lust for Life with Iggy Pop, and it took a week or so, and it was finished by then.
A week?
Yes. It's a very fast shot, and I think a very successful shot as well, thinking of Passenger, of the title Passenger. And the special effect with the lead vocal was that I was experimenting with a guitar amplifier, and on a sudden Iggy stood behind me, tipped on my shoulder and said, "Hey, what you doing there?" And I said, "I'm just trying this microphone with the guitar amplifier." "Okay, let me do it." And short afterwards, he came to the control room and said, I would like to sing via this amplifier. And we recorded his lead vocal via a guitar amplifier. Very funny.
There's so many, groundbreaking without even realizing quite how important what you're doing is going to be to so many other people. But, the Berlin, did you have fun in the city outside the sessions?
I can't remember.
I find that very hard to believe. You've got a good memory.
We always have fun. I mean, come on. We were in Germany, went to Romy's place. There was a certain decadence about it all, but it rained a lot. I don't know. Europe is funny about the rain. We had a fine time. And you know what? It's this. You've seen Cabaret, the movie, and it's got this kind of old kind of thing. That's what I found. It was a lot of speakeasies, a lot of nice pubs, you know, a lot of motorcycle jackets. It was cool. It was somewhat dark, but I kind of like that, you know. And I mean, they partied hard. So, I mean, what could I say? I had a great time.
Obviously, the work that David produced in this era was really important to him. Did he talk a lot about his experiences in Berlin, like at various points in his life afterwards? Because he was obviously a person that moved on a lot, moved forward, as we talk about. But
well, yeah. All right. I'm going to spill the goods. Okay. David loved Berlin because it was a safe haven for him, and he was feeling a lot of pain. But let's understand there were other economical and socioeconomical reasons. You know, it's cheap to live here as opposed to living somewhere else. He was going through a lot of stuff. The divorce, the management, the record company. The record company was freaking him out. Look, nobody listens to the B side of a record. They don't. Everybody plays the A side, and the record company promotes the A side. What do you care what I put on the B side? But the minute he put that ambient music on the B side, the record company went crazy. And so it really created a dilemma. So he had his situation happening. Everything was going wrong. He figures, I'm going to go to Berlin. He comes here with Iggy. He likes it. He has a great time. He doesn't have the pressure. He doesn't do anything. So we come here, and we record 2 albums. Now, I've got to address this because I'm talking about me right now. And nobody ever thinks about what I have to go through to do this. So let me give you a bit of information. 1977, I recorded 4 albums, and my wife recorded 4 albums. And oh, by the way, that was the birth of my daughter, Leah Lorien. All in 1977. We go out, we promote the tour. David Bowie becomes my next door neighbor in 1980. Did we talk about Berlin? Oh, yeah. We talked about Berlin. We talked about the great times we had. We talk about the city. We talk about the nightlife. We talk about the rain. We talk about beer. We talk about the things that, you talk about when you're just relaxed. It is the issue of him having this place that he doesn't have to feel protected. And in that safe spot, Berlin won his heart. Berlin helped him with his best friend Iggy. Iggy helped his best friend David in Berlin as well. So there are some esoterics that you have to take into consideration why he feels for the place, and obviously the place did well by him, and we recorded amazing things. But did he ever come back? It's like fait accompli. Once you do it, and then, again, once all that was done, then he moved next door to me. I had the West Wing, he had the East Wing, and now he's living around where I am, and he can go downstairs with his 2 or 3 newspapers and have a cup of coffee just like he did when he was in Berlin. He feels safe. I'm his next door neighbor. Zoe, his son who later became Joey, who later became Duncan Jones, they all feel safe. The nanny feels safe. Coco feels safe. Everybody, we're one big happy family. And so the feeling that he got in Berlin, thank you very much, because it gave him a basis to understand what it was he actually needed. And then when he moved next door to me, it was a calmer David. It was a kind of like a Berlin David. He was at peace. And that, for me, is extremely important as one of his friends. But I know what he experienced when he was living there was equal to what he was living when he was here. And so we have to look at it as this perfect grace that he found in Berlin. And he was able to look at it as a standard that he might be able to judge his comfort level by. And that, to a person like David Bowie, is monumental when you consider what he had to go through in like 1976, 77, 78. And then finally towards the 80s, he's calm, he's got his kid, he's feeling good, you know. And so these transitional periods are very, very, very important. But the fact that he was able to experience that release while he was suffering in Berlin, and then like all musicians should do, to be able to interpret that into his music so he could share that with the world, and in so doing, giving us a platform from whence we, you know, continue to excel in what we were able to do back then. I mean, yeah, we were young, but we were no fools. We knew history was being made right here because it was done in a way that was not conventional. Just like he said, you can't use that mic, but that's the mic we want to use. I want to run it through a guitar amp. Okay, you run it. Nobody said no. And what you got was historical. So, you know, as far as Berlin is concerned, you know, home is where you feel safe.
That's a lovely answer. Let's talk about the track Heroes. Let's talk about Heroes. What do you remember? About recording the track Heroes, the specific song. Song Heroes.
Oh, the song.
Yes. Because it's become so, well,
Okay.
everybody was crying basically when we played it earlier. It's just
I
so
didn't
beautiful.
understand. Sorry. Well, in 1977, during the session of Heroes, which took place here in our holiday time, I spent the time in Barbados, lying
nice.
in the sun. Yes.
Good. Where's the Barbados trilogy? Why didn't that could have happened?
So I can't tell very much. The only thing I remember very well is when I came back and the band and David and Tony were listening to the backing track of Heroes.
Yeah.
They were so happy with this track. And I think that should be the number one of this setup they recorded in here. And I think they did a very good job in here.
I think that's a bit of an understatement. I'd like to ask, once again, it's a very, very broad question about what...
You were asking.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, this is
Yeah.
the last time he
The
was
last
here.
time David came here was 1987, when Berlin celebrated 750 years anniversary, and he had a concert in front of the old Reichstag right over here. And during this concert, they changed, moved the speakers a little bit to the eastern side, because there were many people standing there listening to his music, and he said as well hello to these people.
So
but
cool.
there were uniformed people to hunt them away, and during this session there was a concert at the Nürburgring in Western Germany, as well as here in Berlin, and they had to move their equipment from Nürburgring to here, but they avoided it while they changed with the band Genesis at the Nürburgring to build. They had not to build up the stage again.
Between the two places.
So the roadies wouldn't be employed during 1 week from one Sunday to the other, and the English unions prescribe that they have to be busy in between. So David phoned Hansa Studio, and he booked one day at least to record with the David Bowie band 2 days before the concert in Berlin, to employ his roadies, and they set up the drum set here on the stage where I'm sitting now, and you guys were in the room, just distributed over the space. And I was working with Gareth Jones and Matthias Hertel. We were 3 Hansa engineers here to do a very good job with David Bowie and the band, and a revival of his 10 years ago event here at Hansa. And it was a very top secret, the whole situation, except for the studio manager, who knew what was going on, but he didn't tell us, of course. And when we started to record what's the name? Time Will Crawl, sorry. Yeah. My brains, I'm in 14 days, I'm 74 years old, and my brain is a little bit reduced.
Happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
Edu. Nearly.
Yes. And we recorded Time Will Crawl, and we knew that it was already published before. So we were thinking, what's going on here? What are we doing now? And so we did a good job, I think, and recorded the whole backing track with everything, with all overdubs and all more ready. In the afternoon, David came with his photographer, and I said, hey, David, we prepared a microphone for you. You can start singing now. He said, no, no way. And then he explained, and we said, what was that? And this was 1974, and so we had the tape, and nobody wanted it. And you asked me before, where is the tape? So I took it home.
You're just nodding there.
Yeah, because it wasn't. It was just a placeholder.
Yeah.
We were here, but he had to have a booking of some kind.
And I wrote on the box of the tape, sorry, no vocals. Just a nice backing track.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Nice backing track.
So it just existed. This is where the music was created for that time. He never felt the need to, as we say, go back. It had done its job. He achieved what he wanted to achieve here. He created this music, and personally, he learned something from it that he took for the rest of his life. And indeed, where are we now? You know, one of the latest songs he did makes reference to his life here, going past Potsdamer Place. I was like, that's the sign. And for someone that never looked back, very rarely looked back, to reference it so explicitly in a song shows how powerful the whole experience must have been from him. Yeah.
The ability to reminisce is one thing, but if you're reminiscing about a bad day, you don't want to remember that. This is worthy of being recalled. You know, it's not just the issue of accomplishment, it's the issue of finding a place where you know you get something from it that's just, you can't put your finger on it. If you feel good recording in a place, you go back there. Do you know whether you're going to get a hit? No. Do you think that anything special is going to happen? You don't know. But you know that you do have a certain sentiment. You do have this feeling of just being there and feeling like if anything could be done, it could be done here. And you know what? In the studio, sometimes it's somewhat cold and it doesn't really have any kind of historical relevance, you know. It's just a studio on the 13th floor of a high-rise. But there's the wall. You're actually, how about if there was a studio in the basement of the Eiffel Tower? I mean, I'd like to record there just so I can have the bragging rights of saying I recorded at the Eiffel Tower. And although it might sound trite, it's something that, historically speaking, how are you going to forget that? How are you going to forget that I was looking at a gunner with a machine gun right there, and it so unnerved me that I would rather be in a closed room with a velvet curtain than to open the curtain again. Thank you very much. I saw it. I can't unsee it now. Thanks a lot. Close the curtain. So, historically speaking, this is a place where history was made. So you're going to remember Berlin, or Hansa, I should say.
I think that's all we've got time for. Please, first of all, say thank you to Carlos, Edu, and Chris. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Also, thank you very much to everyone who's been voting online at davidbowie.com for the song they'd like to hear ahead of the release. And we can confirm that the vote is It's Breaking Glass. It's Breaking Glass. So you're going to be able to get to hear that online any minute, and you guys in the room are going to hear it as well. We're also going to be live streaming, we'll be streaming, sorry, an exclusive Bowie EP live in Berlin, 76 as well. So go to davidbowie.com for information about where you can actually hear that, which is an incredible thing to be hearing. It's a genuinely brilliant piece of work. A hell of a lot of work has gone into it, and doing these incredible albums justice, as I say, in a way that it's familiar, but it's new. And there's so much stuff you haven't heard, and the way it's been put together, I think, does it justice. It's out on Friday. It's out on CD and on vinyl and on digital services and streaming service. So it's there for you to enjoy, and it will be for generations and generations and generations. Thank you very much for coming along. It's been a real honour to do this. So please, once again, give it up to Carlos, Edo and Chris. Thank you very much from Hanson Studios, and good night.